Have you ever felt like you're too worried about being liked and you spend the whole drive home replaying every single thing you said?
If that's you, you're in the right place. Welcome back to Too Much Apparently, a podcast for deep feeling, overthinking, emotionally overloaded humans who've been told they're too much, apparently.
We're Alice and Carly, two deeply feeling therapists having the kind of conversations you don't usually get to have out loud.
This isn't therapy or advice, just honest, messy, human conversations about life, healing, and our own brains. And if you want more of the conversation, we're building a little community over on Substack, with journal prompts, community chats, live event updates, and fellow muchlings to connect with. Go to toomuchapparently.com for all the links.
So let's get into it.
So, am I right in saying this episode came about on the back of another episode?
Yes. So this is from the Everyday Perfectionism episode. And as usual, we filled up the episode with so much stuff. A section we had prepared on social perfectionism, we didn't even touch. So it has its own episode.
Yeah. And I imagine there's going to be different angles to this than just perfectionism. We can bring in other elements. When I think about the episode title, Too Worried About Being Liked, it makes me think of, social perfectionism, social anxiety, being neurodivergent and masking and feeling a need to perform well. Yeah. And probably others. But it makes me think of quite a few different angles that can come into play with wanting to be liked.
Mm. And part of me wishes I could sit here and be like, yeah, I don't mind about this anymore. I'm totally over totally over this one. But no, I'm definitely not. I feel like I'm definitely in a better place than I have been in the past. And yeah, so like earlier in my career, if somebody had like an intro call with me and decided they didn't want to work with me, I would take that really personally and I would find that really hard to get over. But I've had a few recently where they haven't decided to go with me. And actually, I've been okay with that and have actually been happy for them that they found someone else that they want to work with more. So, yeah, which feels nice. It feels like, I can feel a solidity and a comfort in being myself and accepting that I'm not going to be right for everybody that wasn't there in the past. But this can still crop up from time to time. I think in the past, it used to be, I want to be liked by everybody.
Mm-hmm.
And now I think it's more likely to come up if I feel like someone that I really want to like me is
Okay.
interested or doesn't like me.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I might say the same thing actually, although I suspect I might struggle with this still more than what you struggle with it. But in the past, definitely I want to be liked by everybody. Now it's I'd like to be liked by most people.
Yeah.
Slight downgrade. No, I don't think it's still as bad as that. I think it is better than that. But yeah, definitely still crops up quite a bit, I would say.
Mm. Yeah. When it crops up with clients and they're really in a place of like, no, I need everybody to like me. I like to, depending on what I know about their political affiliations, I might say something do you want Donald Trump to like you? Do you want Nigel Farage to like you or Andrew Tate or whoever? Just to kind of ease a little bit of like, oh, okay, maybe not everybody. Maybe there's a little bit of room.
Yes. Yeah, it's a good way. It's a good way to put it to make you think, actually, no. There are probably quite a few people actually that maybe we wouldn't care less
Yeah.
if they liked us or not. But what do you think it is about deep feelers, big thinkers, sensitive and or neurodivergent people where worrying about being liked just comes up so much?
The first thing that comes up for me is about the intensity of emotions. If we're not liked, like it's not pleasant not being liked by somebody. And another thing is about how much have we been rejected? How much have we been not liked? How much have we been told that the way that we are is not okay? And that really being like repeated and repeated and repeated. So almost like if you get the sense that someone else doesn't like you, it almost like connects like I visualize it of like a chain of beads.
Oh, yeah,
And
yeah.
every time there's an experience of not being liked, it connects onto the thread and there's more and more, but you feel it all together. So rather than just
Mm.
the pain of this one experience, it's the pain of all those experiences that you've had.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. And as the part that's relevant, particularly for us and for our listeners. And then there's the part that is quite typical for anybody. We are social creatures, we are wired for connection, and our brains have evolved to fear social exclusion because once upon a time, being excluded and not being liked from your group could have meant real exclusion and death. So, worrying about not being liked and being excluded can be perceived as a genuine threat. But it just seems to be that if you then add in being really attuned to other people's emotional states, picking up on subtle cues, having actual or perceived experiences of rejection repeatedly, like you said with those beads, that it just becomes a much more pronounced experience, or where being liked almost even more becomes like life or death, but in the modern world.
Yeah.
So sometimes I do think it can be helpful to understand that there is a biological component to this need rather than where it can get pathologized, I suppose. But at the same time, we do need to recognize that for those of us with certain life experiences, trauma, bullying, social exclusion, relationship trauma, and also for those of us with certain neurotypes, that can be an even bigger difficulty.
Mm. And I think sometimes it can be really subtle as well. Like, I'm really trying to get my head around how to talk about this a bit more at the moment. The idea that trauma isn't necessarily something that's happened to you. Because I think most people, when they hear trauma, they think of something big. But certainly in my work, the trauma is the what didn't happen piece.
Yeah, yep, yep.
So it might not be that people have, whether that's your parents, friends, colleagues, teachers, whatever. It might not be that you've got lots of experience of people saying, like, don't do that, don't do that, that's not okay, don't be like that, be like this, whatever. It might just be that you didn't really get any praise or recognition for who you were. It
Mhm.
might just be the absence of it. Um,
Yes.
and that can have an unbelievably big effect on somebody.
Yeah, I'm glad you said that because people do focus quite a lot on what's happened to somebody, not what's not happened to
Mm.
somebody, and how that can have just as much impact on a person and their development, particularly in those early years.
Yeah. Yeah. I think often the people that come to work with me tend to be the emotional one in their family, and the rest of the family is not very emotional. I don't know if you have the same pattern. I don't know if that's just the kind of people that come to therapy in general.
Yeah, I
Um,
would say I have a similar pattern.
mm,
Yeah.
yeah. But I think that's really hard if you're an emotional person and you're born into a family that's not very emotional. My body's almost like wincing with like the pain of it. It's
Mm.
a really painful experience. Like on an existential level, I think it can feel like it feels like a huge thing. That is what I think of when people are really preoccupied with being liked. That what I'm thinking about is what messages have you had about being liked or not? Yeah, what messages have you had or not had about being liked? So then I was thinking about my own experiences of that, and partly it's kind of the same story for me. I was, I'm the emotional one in a family that's perhaps not so emotional, and but then I was also thinking about other layers of it as well. So like being undiagnosed ADHD, like that's a huge thing. Like, so I'll act in all of these autistic ways or ADHD ways, and people are like, "What are you doing?" So there's that consistent message, which I think is quite common in people that are late diagnosed. But I was also thinking about other things like class.
Mm.
So I think I've always had a feeling like I'm too middle class for working class people, and I'm too working class for middle class people. And like I don't quite fit anywhere.
Yeah. Yeah, I get that.
Yeah. And being an opinionated woman,
Yeah.
I think the word blunt popped into my head. Like the amount of times where I've said something and I haven't even realized that it was perhaps not socially appropriate to say it because I was being factual. So I don't know if anybody's been watching Love Island recently, but one of the people on there, Yulia, she's been calling people out quite a bit. And it's been quite controversial. Like the other people in the villa haven't liked it at all and have called her out back. Um, but partly as I'm watching her, I'm thinking she's not trying to cause trouble. She's just saying things as she sees them. And I'm not saying she's autistic. I've got absolutely no idea. That's certainly not something that she said. But I can see myself in her doing that, like just saying
Mm.
things, not realizing that it's not going to go down very well or whatever. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. Well, just say a bit more about that because you kind of alluded to a bit where you think your need to be like maybe came from. But I just wonder if you can say a bit more.
I feel like I'm going to go from, yeah, from like saying surface level stuff to wham deep down in one quick step because where I go to is I feel like the intense fear of not being liked is linked to a deep belief in a very young part of us that we're bad on some level, that we're not likable because we're bad.
Hmm. When you say bad, what do you mean by that?
I guess it's shame is what I'm talking about.
Hmm.
Just who I am is not okay.
Yes. I felt I need to clarify that because I think my brain was taking it quite literally. Like from a
Hmm.
young perspective, I'm bad, like I'm naughty.
Well, yeah, I think that's in there too. I think that
Mm.
can be part of the picture. Yeah, like I'm a bad person. Yeah, I think that is part of the picture as well.
Mm. But also
Um,
just more broadly, I'm not okay.
yeah, yeah,
Mm.
yeah. But ultimately, there's something fundamentally wrong with me. I am
Yes.
I'm bad or defective in some way, and that's why people don't like me, particularly when it's a repeated pattern of not being liked.
Yeah.
It's almost like confirmation then. So then, of course, every time it happens, it's, it's like, well, this is more confirmation. This is more confirmation that there's something wrong with me.
Mhm.
Yeah. Yeah. I suppose as I reflect on it, like just sitting here, like me at primary school comes to mind. And I think I was quite bossy, but I look at like looking at that through the lens of knowing now that I'm autistic is like, yeah, okay. I was, I needed things to be right. I needed things to be how I needed them to be. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know why I'm finding this so difficult. I feel like I'm getting tangled up and I'm not really sure why.
Mm. Yeah, I feel a bit like my brain's just not engaged today, and it's like, "Come on, podcast, gotta be engaging," and I'm like,
Yeah.
So I feel like I'm really trying to get engaging conversation out of me.
Well, I guess
Um,
it's quite a vulnerable episode, isn't it?
mm,
It is quite a vulnerable episode. And so you said at the beginning of this that you felt like maybe you still struggle with this a bit more than I do. So I wonder what your history is with this, how you make sense of it, like how it still is in your life now.
I feel quite confused about how this came about. I've got ideas, but it feels quite woolly. I don't know that I can reach for something that's concrete enough. And, I say this all the time on the podcast, my memory is just shocking. So sometimes when I think about younger me, I have very different versions because I've got different stories in my head about who I was, and they often seem in conflict with one another, but maybe they're not. It's just how I was in different situations. So, for example, on the one hand, I would see and describe myself and have stories of me being quiet, insular, happy to play by myself all day long. Other people would wreck what I was doing or wanting to do with the game. And then on the other hand, I have memories and stories of, and some home videos of me being bossy, directing play, actually seeming quite confident, like little when I was little, commanding other children about what to do. So I feel like early primary school, definitely reception. I think I had quite a bit of confidence, and I just get the sense that I kind of just got on with people, played, and maybe was somewhat bossy with the play and how to play or what we were playing and how we were playing it. But I could also be quiet and insular and very happy on my own. The most level of understanding that I think I can obtain for myself is that each year as you get older, there's just more social rules and different ways of being or how you're supposed to be. I guess when you're little, I feel like you can get away with lots of different things and being a certain way. But maybe those things become a bit less acceptable as you get older, or people maybe just accept them when you're little, but call them out when you get older. So being bossy with play, other kids might just go, okay, then, and kind of like follow you. But maybe you start to get to year 3 or 4 or 5, and people might be calling out your bossiness or saying, no, no, we're not going to do that. We're going to do it like this, or challenging you. So I wonder if in the early years I could just maybe be more of my, I'm going to say unmasked self, also as an unknown ADHDer. But as the years passed, I think I just had to learn more masking. And so much of, I think, the pressure on me to be liked, I do think it was quite internally driven. So my family is emotional. I wouldn't describe myself as the emotional one in my family, but members of my family are emotional in different ways. But me and my mum are both similar in terms of our emotional sensitivity. Whereas my dad and my sister are more in the loud, quick, fast reactions, tantrumy, that kind of thing. So quite polar opposites, and I think them butted up against one another quite a lot. So I think I was probably around quite of a lot of emotion, but then I think being an emotional person meant I was very sensitive to all of the emotions in the house, and I probably found that then difficult. And the only other, I feel like this is a bit bitty, but the only other thing that I can very clearly remember is how much I relied on largely American TV as to how you're supposed to be, and just trying very hard to be that. And in order to, I don't know what it would have been in my child head. This is kind of coming from an adult head, but in order to have a good life and be liked, you need to have lots of friends, you need to be popular, and you need to be pretty, and you need to be liked by and fancied by other boys. And they just became goals. I didn't just live my life and just make friends and go with the flow. I constantly had the pressure of these goals in my head that I had to achieve. And the older I got, the worse and worse and worse it got.
Mm. Yeah, yeah. So I know that we've talked before that your parents are both quite sociable and mine are not. But I just had a real moment of like, oh, that's why Carly's so sociable and I'm not, is because you've looked at these American TV shows where they are, hugely based around friendships, I think, and looked up to that. Whereas I don't know, I was trying to find a specific character in my head, which I couldn't. But I was just like, whichever quiet little character with a head in a book, that would be me.
Yes.
That would be me.
Yeah.
But also
Whereas
really,
that is who I was, but I think my masking was more like I need to be like this popular
yeah,
girl in this show.
yeah.
And so it's almost like I had this level of determination that
Mm,
I will be these things. And I didn't really become those things, but I kind of never stopped trying.
yeah, yeah. That's hard, isn't it? When you've got an idea in your head of what you need to be liked. I don't think I had it quite like I don't think they ever became goals for me. I think I just withdrew because I think I just felt like I can't be that. So
Mm.
when we're recording the podcast and we'll prepare a line and I've got to say something as if we haven't just practiced it or whatever, and I can't do it and I can't act. It feels like a similar thing. It's like I can't pretend to be more sociable than I am or more bubbly than I am, or like I can't make myself do it. I can make myself be more like in a people pleasy way. I can sit there and smile and be like, yeah, everything's fine when it isn't.
Hmm.
But yeah, I can't make myself be more sociable than I can. So yeah, I think my strategy was just to withdraw, which we've touched on, which we
Mm.
touched on before.
I think
Um,
that's why I've always thought that if I had the confidence that I would be a good actor, because I've played so many roles just day to day in my life, that I do just think naturally I can act. And even when during COVID, I've mentioned this before on the pod, I think, During COVID, I did some online acting classes because I did drama at school, but I've never done anything more than that. So I thought, oh, it would be less scary to do acting classes online than it would in person with like everyone's eyes on you. And doing it online meant that when it was my turn to do something, I could just close the window so I didn't see everyone's faces. And it meant that then I could do it. This was why I couldn't actually act because as soon as people's eyes are on me, I can't do it anymore. But then I could do it. And I feel like this sounds a bit braggy, but I felt like I always got like really positive feedback, sometimes like the best feedback of everyone there. And at the end we had to record ourselves performing like a monologue of something. And mine that I was given ended up being one where you had to cry and everything in it, which I'm just able to do. And the acting teacher, I can't remember exactly what he said, but it was something on the lines of, "Oh, you'd think you've had loads of lessons," something like that. Yeah, and just since learning more about what it means to be autistic and about masking, I do just think, yeah, I think I've just got lots of practice.
Yeah.
And I just think so much of that comes down to mimicry. I just think I've got so good at mimicking. And actually, I do remember when I did feel self conscious in certain situations, sometimes I would channel a character that was quite confident and I'd pretend to be her in that situation. I've got fragments of memories of being in certain situations and looking at what the so called cooler, more pretty, more popular girls were doing in that situation and just think, well, they can do that, so I can do that, and then just kind of copying them. And I think when you emulate and try to copy and try to mimic so many people, you can, yeah, you do just become a bit like a chameleon, just able to kind of blend your way into situations.
Mm. It just sounds absolutely fascinating. And I'm just, yeah, like curious about like, how has this never occurred to me that you can do this? And partly I'm like, oh, I wonder who I could be or how different I might be or what other things I might have done with my life if I'd been able to, I guess, tap into different characters or whatever to present. But also saying that, that feels like I'm dismissing the cost of doing that as well, because I imagine there's quite a high cost to that. At one point while you were talking, I
Mm.
had Eminem in my head, and I was like, "Can the real Carly Radford please stand up?"
Please stand up. Please stand up. Yeah. Yeah. No, I totally get what you're saying. I can understand where your like fascination comes from in terms of why couldn't I do that? And who would I have been like if I could have done that? And yet, yeah, conversely, as I was saying it all, I was just thinking about how exhausting to
Mm,
live life
mm.
that way. And even when it came to boys needing to be liked, needing to be fancied by boys growing up, I can remember I would be so alert to if I was being watched and what my face was doing and how I was coming across and how to be flirty and whether they like me, how can I get them to like me? And I remember just walking into a room and being so aware of like what boys were in there and clocking all of their locations, just being so honed in then on needing to be a certain way to try to get them to fancy me. And even just as I say it, it's not something you talk about or admit out loud because it's kind of just what goes on in your own head. So it feels a bit like, ooh, I don't know. Just saying it out loud is not very comfortable. I think it feels shallow. I think that's what I think it feels like it's a shallow thing to want. But I don't think it was about that. I think, like you said, it's all what played into those deep down inner insecurities of not being enough and not being good enough. And I will be if these people like me, if these people fancy me, etc., etc.
Yeah. So then no wonder that it hurts so much when people don't like you.
Mhm.
Yeah, because it goes right back to those deep down places in us that feel so insecure and so vulnerable. And yeah, it's more than just this one thing in front of you, I think.
Yeah, because if somebody doesn't like you or if somebody doesn't fancy you, it's not just a case of, oh, okay. The question then is, oh, well, what have I done wrong?
Yeah.
What have I done wrong? What am I not getting right? And so
Yeah.
it puts all of the onus back on you that the reason they don't like you, the reason that they don't fancy you is because there's something not right with you.
Yeah.
And then for some of us, a search to change that or to not be that way anymore.
Yeah.
Can't
Yeah.
tell you how many times I said to myself, I'm not going to be like that anymore.
Yeah. Yeah. I think the turning point for me was I don't like using the word narcissist. I feel like it's massively overused. And I don't mean this necessarily in a narcissistic personality disorder kind of way. But a big part of my early therapy was recovering from narcissistic behavior from other people,
Mhm.
which involved some really nasty and cruel expressions of not liking me.
Right.
And I was really in a loop of like, how can I get these people to like me? Like, what do I have to do? I'm working so hard to prove them wrong. And
Mm.
it was, it was never, ever going to work. They were deeply invested in not liking me. But I remember a specific turning point with one of them, and they'd got someone like on side, if you like. And I was really distressed that this person was going to hear all this stuff about me that wasn't necessarily true or was like a distorted version of the truth or whatever. And they weren't going to like me. And I can't remember if it was one of my therapists that came up with this or whether I came up with this on my own. I think I came up with it on my own. But I decided that actually this poor person was being duped.
Right.
And I encouraged myself to feel pity towards this person that was being duped. And that really shifted something for me because I
Mm.
think it took I guess, the reality of like the other person deciding who I am, whether that was the original person or the person that had been kind of roped in. But yeah, there was just a real shift in it in like, oh, okay, here's this person who is invested in concealing their own poor behavior by blaming me for things. And they're going to go around now telling other people that this is how I am. And yeah, just be like looking at these people, it sounds childish and a bit petty. And I'm not entirely sure how healthy it is, but it really worked for me. Like looking at them and being like, oh, that's really sad for you. Like, you've really fallen for this thing.
Mm.
Felt like was a real shift in how I see myself, and I feel like now I can apply that even where there isn't somebody being cruel to me. Someone's just decided that I'm just not their cup of tea. I don't see it so much in that I pity people who don't like me, but it allowed me to keep ownership of whether I'm a likable person or not.
Mm. Yeah.
And not all of me, but most parts of me, I think, know that I am a likable person.
Mhm.
Yeah. So it feels more solid to be able to be like, well, I am likable. You can have your own opinion, which is wrong. Uh,
Yeah.
yeah. You can have your own opinion, but I can also have my opinion and I know I'm okay.
Mm. Yeah. Well, I think you should pity people that don't like you because they miss out on your fabulous self.
Thank you.
So we will all pity them. But no, there was lots in there that I felt quite sad listening to some of that. And I suppose it's the case when you're friends, you kind of want to be your friend's protector. I'm feeling protective towards you as my friend. But also there was a lot in there that made sense in terms of how that mental shift then made it easier to tolerate. And there was more in there for me around being liked, but also just around the injustice of being painted in a negative light that's not accurate and kind of a need to want people to know the truth. I can certainly relate to that myself in certain situations. So yeah, that just sounded difficult all round, really. But you mentioned that that was a turning point for you, and the result of that experience was that you then just basically applied that later on in life to other situations as well?
Yeah, yeah, and I guess it was, it doesn't feel like a very helpful thing to be able to pass on to anyone unless you're in a similar situation like that. Because part of the thing was that it was not sustainable for me to keep pursuing being liked by these people.
Mm.
Yeah, I was just making myself ill trying to do it.
Yes.
So I had to stop. I feel like there's so much to say on this episode. Like part of my brain is going off to, you said something before that made me think about the need to over explain
Mm.
ourselves, which is something that I really can still get tangled up in. And I know that people experience it as me being defensive, and maybe it is me being defensive. But yeah, the need to explain where I'm coming from, or the need to explain further context, or try and make myself be understood. I
Mm.
find that really hard. And that's definitely part of, being liked or not. The other thing was about, this is so all over the place. So I'm sorry for anyone that's listening and trying to keep track of where we're hopping around to and from. But the other thing that came into my mind, so when I said before about it was making me sick, is I really believe that a lot of obsessive behavior is rooted in loneliness. And I don't just mean you haven't got people around that you spend time with, but I mean a specific kind of loneliness where you've had to mask yourself, your real self, for a long time. So it hasn't really had any contact with anybody. So yeah, I guess I was thinking about, does it make people sick to the extent that I was getting sick? And I think sometimes we don't recognize it as what it is, because if you're really anxious and going over and over and over things, you wouldn't be thinking about loneliness.
Mm.
But I really believe that's one of the roots of that work.
Yeah. And would you say that the loneliness fuels the desire for connection, which fuels the over analyzing and the being in touch with everything as a kind of desperate kind of grab for connection?
Yeah, and the masking.
Yeah.
And so it's almost like a bit of a loop. Well, I think one is that when it gets to a level, the loneliness becomes so painful that it just gets diverted off at an unconscious level and becomes obsessive behaviors, because then we're thinking all the time about that thing and there's no space for your brain to make you aware of the loneliness. So I think that's one part of it. And the other part is, yeah, that then because you become so, the yearning for connection is so strong and you feel like you need to be different to be liked, you mask more and it makes the problem worse.
Mm. Yeah. Yes. Yeah.
Mm.
No, I think there's a lot in that. And if you bring that in alongside then other reasons that we know that people might do this, so just taking it back to earlier life experiences. So if you grew up in a traumatic environment, your nervous system would learn how to become more alert to subtle changes and reading the room, sometimes on a microscopic level. And also, if you're neurodivergent and particularly sensitive to the emotions of those around you, you would learn the same. So ultimately, whatever the cause, if you, in your early childhood development, if your nervous system learned that it has to stay on alert and it has to be hyper vigilant and aware to micro interactions and the tension in a room, what a subtle interaction from that person meant, what that body language signals, it becomes your second nature that you probably don't always even realize now as an adult in situations that you're doing that.
Mhm.
But it's coming from that threat response detection as a way to kind of keep ourselves safe. And that's really hard when we're emotional sponges and other people's emotional responses like directly impact then how we feel. But if that's part of the picture for you, then if you add in repeated experiences of being rejected or being told you're wrong, then if you add in having a highly masked self and the loneliness that can come with never really being seen as your real self, all of that just comes underneath the umbrella of I need to be liked. Because I need to be liked, that sounds so surface level, doesn't
Yeah.
it? It doesn't really
Yeah.
sound like much, like, oh, I just need to be liked by other people. But when
Yeah.
you peel back the layers and how deep that can go, it's bringing up sadness again
Mm.
for me. That it just feels like, oh, feels like an elephant has got its foot on my chest. It feels like so much weight to carry around.
Mm. Yeah. Yeah. And I think what you were saying there, it sounded a bit like they were two separate things, like the loneliness and the hypervigilant were two separate things. But actually, I think they're the same thing. If you're hypervigilant, you're not your authentic self,
Yeah.
because you will be being your on alert self, your better keep small self, your don't show anybody who I am self.
Hmm.
Or I guess you could become like your victim self to try and invite recovery from people. However it is, you're not being your authentic self, which kind of
Mhm.
takes me back to what we were saying before about being the emotional one in our family. So when I said that, I was like, what are you talking about? Like, people in my family are emotional, but I think what I meant was I value emotions and I
Mhm.
value emotional growth and I value emotional exploration and all of that. It was really interesting. One time I sat down and got my whole family to do the Myers Briggs thing.
Oh, yeah.
I don't know if people know what Myers Briggs is. You might have heard it more as personality types. So broken down into, I think, 16 personality types, but they have
Mhm.
letters like INFJ, which is what I am, or ESTP maybe is another one. They have like little codes. But I think the emotional bit comes under,
It's
mm,
F, isn't it, for feeling?
yeah, yeah. But however it was, so it must have been F and everyone else in my family was a T.
Mhm.
So even though they can be emotional, yeah, I feel like I'm the only one that values emotions and wants to invest in emotions. I think most people in society see emotions as an inconvenience.
Yes, yeah.
Whereas I'm like, wow, look at these amazing signposts that can tell me about myself and other people and the world and so on. So if you're someone who values emotions and you're in a situation where you're having to be hyper vigilant. So even if the person that you're reacting to is being emotional, whether that's that they're shouting because they're angry or whether it's that they're crying because they're overwhelmed and so there's lots of expression of emotion. That's not what we need as children. What we need as children is parents or other people around us that are solid in their own emotions and not overwhelmed by their own emotions. That allows us to have the space to really explore safely who we are and make mistakes and do bad, in air quotes, things, get things wrong and still be liked and still be loved.
Mhm.
And I think if you don't have that, it just has such a massive impact on you for the rest of your life. Yeah, I think I've spoken about it before as like a snowball. Like it can start off as this tiny thing, or like I was saying earlier in the episode, like it might be nothing, it might be an absence
Mhm.
of something. But yeah, it can create some extremely anxious people. And I really like what you said about I need to be liked feeling surface level, or it can sound a bit, I think it can sound a bit like self involved sometimes, but I think it's huge. I think it's a huge thing.
And I think it would be probably just good to mention how that then manifests as an adult, what behaviors you might see in yourself and what you might notice
Mm-hmm.
if you are someone who carries around this underlying anxiety and need to be liked, what you might notice yourself doing in social situations.
Well, the top one for me is over explaining.
Yeah,
Yeah.
over explaining. Yeah,
Yeah. I just
yeah.
need to be understood. I cannot stand being misunderstood.
Yes, man, over explaining, over justifying, for sure. Yeah, I've
Yeah.
done that one a lot. A big one for me, and it's complicated because I think there might be other mechanisms at play, but we've spoken about it before, is not being able to be present in the social interaction because there is a part of me playing observer role. I just almost think of it as a part of me has is projected out of my body and is looking down on the interaction. And whilst it's happening, that part is scanning, is commentating, is thinking about what my posture is. Do I look open? Do I look relaxed? Do I look interested? Do I look engaged? Am I being funny enough? Am I being fun? Are they having a good time? Are they thinking, oh no, I wish I'd not bothered, or I wish I'd not come out? Are they going to want to see me again? And then after you leave, then ruminating and playing over all of the interactions as to how, yeah, just to try to establish some sense of safety. It's almost like, oh, did I do that okay? Are they okay? And are we okay? And oh, then I can relax and then I can be okay. And that is something that I don't do as often. Now I can in certain situations, but that would be every interaction, at one point in my life, it would just be everything. So, yeah, if you're someone that is constantly scanning the interaction and observing it as well and trying to adjust what you're doing in the moment with the goal of not to be more myself, but to be liked, to be accepted, for this person to have had a good time. And then, yeah, the rumination afterwards, post socialization rumination, just checking on
Mm.
everything and anything that you might have said or anything that you might have got wrong. And the other thing that I think of as well is kind of living with the mantra. And when I say living with it, it might not be in your head, but it will be in your nervous system of like, don't rock the boat.
Mm.
Keep everything nice, keep everything pleasant. Don't make anyone angry, don't make anybody annoyed. Don't give an opinion that someone's not going to like. Don't be too controversial. Yeah, think of that one a lot as well.
Yeah, I have that in slightly different words. So I would say, don't make a fuss.
Yeah. Oh, right.
Don't
Yeah.
make a fuss. Don't make a fuss.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. You're talking about the post socialization rumination made me think about when we first started spending time together and we would check that, yeah, the post socialization shame spiral that we
Yes.
were able to check out with each other and that just being like a revolutionary thing.
Yeah. Because I'd never had anyone to do that with
Mm.
before. So when we first started hanging out years ago, it was just crazy to me that we were allowed to message one another and say, "Hey, was this okay? And did you have a good time?" Or, "I was worried I was a bit this or a bit that." And that actually didn't have to carry it, could just voice it and just get that reassurance back. And yeah, it was revolutionary. These are the things that just happen in your head. You don't say them out loud.
Do you remember who did it first?
No.
I don't either. I'm intrigued. It sounds like the sort of thing I would do, but I haven't done it with anyone else that I can think of. So
Mm.
that makes me think it was you. But I don't know. But I kind of want it to be
Genuine.
me.
Let's just say it
Um,
was you then.
yeah.
Gave me permission to do so.
Yeah. Another thing that I will often do is point out my flaws before anyone else can get there.
Ah, right. Yeah.
Make a bit of a joke out of it.
Oh,
Yeah.
yeah. Or when people use like self-deprecating, yeah,
Yeah.
humor.
Yeah. 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 Um, and I find it really hard when other people do it, and I really don't like it. So I wish I didn't do it myself.
Right.
But
Yeah.
it just feels like there is some safety in, getting in there first. Yeah, something that you were saying before. So, well, I guess the rumination makes me think about a quote that I saw a few years ago, which is confidence is not they will like me. It's I'll be fine if they don't.
Mm.
And again,
Mhm.
that I think that's been another really important reframe of nothing bad is going to happen if these people don't like me. And obviously, that's going to be different from situation to situation. I don't know why, but my uni was popping into my head when I said that and imagining like, oh, but what would it be like to be part of that group and nobody liking you? Like that would be super intense and horrible. But yeah, for most situations, if you don't get on with somebody, and I suppose that makes me think about authenticity as like magnets. And the point of being authentic is that it repels the people that you don't really want to spend time with because they're not like you. And it draws in the people that are like you and do want to spend time with you.
Mhm.
So it's hard when you're repelling somebody by being yourself. But yeah, it allows you to draw people in that maybe you wouldn't have expected
Yeah. Yeah.
by
I
really
think,
being who you are.
yeah, I had to go through a process, I think, of letting go because being your authentic self will attract people to you who then you are going to likely want to have and have the people that you maybe don't want to have. I think in order to get there, though, I had to let go of the certain types of people that I felt like I needed to like me to feel of worth. And some of that comes back to status. So it wasn't that I needed everyone to like me, but I also, when I was younger, needed certain types of people to like me. As I said, the pretty girls, the popular crowd, the successful crowd, the wealthy crowd, the people who in society you deem as having more status. And then if you're friends with them, like you're elevated, which I've always found so interesting because that fundamentally clashes with my values around status and hierarchy and all of these things. And yet I felt like I was told in lots of different ways that that's what means you've made it, that you're a good human. So there was a time when it would have felt more important to me to be my inauthentic self and have those types of connections and friendships. So there's almost like a letting go that I had to do, that I don't actually even want that. And it's not actually what I even believe, like as a value, to then just be able to be my authentic self with whoever that attracts. Does that make sense?
Mm. Yeah. Yeah, it does.
You're still feeling like quite like shallow to name.
I think that just goes back to what we were saying before, though, isn't it? And I think it's that it's obviously not shallow.
Mm.
It's a really complex thing. I feel like almost viewing it as shallow is, it feels like that Daily Mail voice in my head of like, oh, don't be shallow,
Mhm.
you know?
Yeah. I think for me, it's just like, who wouldn't want to be friends with Taylor Swift, for example? Like,
Oh, well,
who
that was
that person
weird.
is, yeah, who
Yeah.
that person is going to be different for everybody. But,
Yeah. I don't
you know,
know if I would want to be. And that kind of surprised me as you said
oh,
it.
yeah.
Yeah, I feel like I'm not
Yeah.
so much of a Swiftie now, but I certainly was like even just a few years ago. I think it's the billionaire piece. It's like,
Mhm.
can there be ethical billionaires? And I feel like my answer is no, and that makes me feel really like, oh. There are parts of me that would, that would love to be. She's obviously an emotional person, someone who values emotions, and that, great. I have more of that in my life. Um,
Mhm.
yeah. Sorry, I feel like I've hijacked your point, but with my own shock of like, what? Why? What?
Yeah.
Sorry.
No, that's okay. I think I was trying to get at the concept of there is an attraction towards
Mm,
something that feels like it would elevate our status in life.
yeah.
Because when I say who wouldn't want to be friends with Taylor Swift, I feel like bad for Taylor Swift because when you're that big, you can never know who your real friends are because the reality is I don't even know her or know what she would be like as a friend. It's about the elevation. It's about just how that would make you
Ah,
feel inside. I would be lying if I said that when I was younger and I bought a designer handbag and I carried it around, I would be lying if I said that that didn't make me feel good and feel that it said something about me that I bought this designer handbag, which
right.
is hilarious because it's so opposite of what I actually think and believe. And I never even used it actually. And I ended up just, just selling it. I bought it because I felt like I'm supposed to want this and it
Yeah.
makes me feel good to have it, but not
Yeah.
really.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think that's I wonder if it comes back to the acting bit because I feel like it just doesn't work for me. Like I just couldn't be friends with somebody unless I really meant it and really wanted it. I just couldn't. And when you say about like the handbag example, like I have absolutely tried to spend my way to a higher status. And of course, makes absolute sense. We're constantly pumped with advertising or influencers telling us if we buy this bag, makeup, whatever, we will become this serene, fulfilled, perfect person and our lives will be sold. I have 100% tried down that path.
Mhm.
The last thing I bought like that was a Dyson. No, it wasn't a Dyson Airwrap. It's the Shark version of a Dyson Airwrap.
Oh, yeah.
And I was like, yeah, I'll absolutely get up earlier and curl my hair before every therapeutic working day. I've never, not once have I curled my hair, not once. But even if I had, I would have been sat there with curled hair that projected something that's not actually me.
Yeah. Do
And
you know
that would
what?
just feel so icky and gross
Yeah.
that I just can't do it. It's about lying, like some autistic people can find it hard to lie.
Mhm.
It's that piece. It feels like I'm lying and I just can't.
Can't,
Yeah.
yeah. That anecdote reminded me, and with you connecting to Love Island earlier,
Mm.
I've only ever watched one series of Love Island, and it was quite a number of years ago now. I think I've said this before, but when I was doing my training, they encouraged us to watch reality TV shows and try to figure out people's attachment styles and stuff. So I was like, okay, I'll give Love Island a go and let's see if I can figure out everybody's attachment style. But there were things about Love Island that I did enjoy. But at the end of the series, I told myself to not watch it anymore because I think I'm too vulnerable to get drawn in to my hair always needs to be perfect. I started to think, oh, I should start getting my eyelashes done again. I used to get them done from a sensory experience. I freaking hated it.
Mm.
It was horrible and it was a nightmare. But I started to believe that I had to start getting my eyelashes done regularly again and I should do this. And oh, why don't I make more effort with how I dress? And oh, yeah, I should do my hair or my hair should be curly every day. Similar things like that. So I decided, yeah, to not watch it anymore. Yeah, I still think there's that vulnerability in me to get drawn into that way of thinking that in order to feel like I'm good enough, I need to be doing all of those things. And
Yeah.
yeah, if I'm around it, and I actually follow on social media now a few, I think they call themselves like D influencers.
Yeah.
And there's a few accounts on that. One of them's called, I think she's called Ordinary M, I think.
Oh, I think I follow Ordinary. Yeah.
And I love her account, and it's all the stuff that I need. So, just in case anyone listening is relating to any of this, I recommend trying to find some de-influencer accounts of just people being like, yeah, normal, like anti all of those things.
Yeah. Yeah. And I would add on to that and still be careful because some of them are very middle class. And if you don't have a middle class income, there can still be the striving for things that are out of your price range or whatever.
Mm, yeah.
Yeah. It's so easy to fall into. It is. It is. And there absolutely are. And even when I'm watching Love Island and I don't, I get my hair cut once a year or something like that. And I never have it dyed in a salon or I don't have any beauty treatments. But yeah, when I'm watching it, even though that I'm not like into that kind of stuff at all, I can still feel myself being like, oh, my eyes would look wider if I had eyelashes on. And
Mm,
um, God, like they're in bikinis the whole time. But yeah, even I can get suckered into that, even though it's not I think about.
mm,
But actually, because the cameras are on all day, they're not done up all the time. And sometimes, they've got no makeup on and it's like, oh, okay, you look like a normal human, or like their hair's all bedraggled because they've been in and out of the pool or whatever. And I'm like, oh, right, okay, your hair isn't perfectly styled at all times of the day. So I can also feel like okay about that, like
mm,
beyond the illusion of what they try and project.
hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. There's just quite a lot to wanting to be liked where you can see it manifesting.
Yeah.
Whether that is how you dress, how you style yourself, how much makeup you put on, whether you feel the need to have designer things. So there's kind of like that external presentation.
Yeah.
And then there's all the internal stuff that we were talking about. And
I suppose the question I had in my head was like, what is it that we're looking for when we think being liked is the answer? Does that make sense?
yeah, I think the answer will be different for each person. And I also think there are probably some fundamental truths that might be shared. I do think some of it is looking for safety. It, of course, feels unsafe to not feel like we're being accepted or liked. I think it can challenge our notion of self if we're not, or shake our confidence or shake our self esteem, sense of self worth, even if we're someone that has quite a bit of it. And so we might want to counteract that by, oh no, that's not okay. I need to make sure that they like me. And I think it can be about proving our worth to really to ourselves. Like you mentioned before, it's a way to try to prove the shame wrong, but we're not realizing that we're just reinforcing the shame that exists to begin with. Because even if we end up being truly liked by everyone, let's just say we put in so much effort and we really have, like, we've made it, everyone likes us.
Including Donald Trump.
Yeah. Including the undesirables. Do they really? Because it's not you, it's a
Mm.
version of you.
Yeah, that's a really good question.
Mm.
That's a really good question. Yeah. Which makes me think that when we try and make ourselves be liked, we often end up being so bland that nobody really likes us, or people won't like us because we're too, uh, yeah, inauthentic. I guess I think people can pick up when you're not being authentic sometimes. The question I had in my head, I wondered what would come up for you, like as a spontaneous thing. If you were to say the sentence, "I don't need to be liked, I need," and then fill the blank, like what on the spot comes into your head?
Oh, it came in straight away. I don't need to be liked, I need to be understood.
Oh, yeah.
Mm,
Okay. Mine was accepted. I don't need
Accept,
to be
yeah.
liked, I need to be accepted. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, well, we invite you to ask yourself that question. Can you just say it again, Alice?
Yeah. So if you finish the sentence, "I don't need to be liked, I need," and fill the blank.
Mm. And if you feel able to share that with us,
Yeah.
I'd be interested to know what other people say for themselves.
Yeah. Send us an email to our new email address, hello@toomuchapparently.com.
Oh, yes, we have an official new email address now. So,
Yeah.
yeah, drop us an email or a comment.
Right.
If you've ever felt like you're too worried about being liked to just relax around people, like you've replayed a 2-minute conversation 40 times deciding you were weird, or drafted and redrafted a text that just says, sounds good,
Maybe that's not a sign you need to try harder to be liked. Maybe it's a sign that part of you learned a long time ago that being liked was how you stayed safe.
next time we're talking about being too tired to be the person I want to be. For anyone whose mind is full of ideas, ambition, and versions of themselves they still want to become, but whose body, health, or energy just can't always keep up.
Before we go, we'd love you to come and join our Substack community, Too Much Apparently. It's a little community space for fellow muchlings where we share journal prompts for every episode, host community chats, and share early updates on new episodes and live events. If you'd like to stay connected between episodes, go to toomuchapparently.com for all the links, or click the link in the show notes.
And if this episode made you feel a bit less alone, subscribe, rate the podcast, and follow Too Much Apparently on Instagram and TikTok. Those small clicks help other sensitive humans find us.
But for now, we'll leave you with this. If you knew for certain that a few people already liked you exactly as you are, what would you stop doing?